So what happens is that we, like just now, we lack awareness, we become forgetful. And that's basically due to having a lot of things happening and not paying attention. So let's pay attention to the body, one's own body on the cushion or chair. And by that, there's a kind of, there's an overall sensation of having the body, of course, that is there, unless we're really feeling numb for some reason. And there is also the actual point of contact between our body and the surface we're sitting on. So let's see if we can bring our attention to that point of contact. And we feel that, of course we can, we just have to pay attention to it, the sensation of our body on the cushion. Or the chair. Just bring the attention to that and slow down the mental goings on by bringing the attention also to the breath, and just take a few deep, long breaths and relax with the out breath. And let your body be upright, comfortable. Let the arms be relaxed by the side of the body with a slight gap there between the torso and your arms. Shoulders level, not hunched back, not hunched forward, not pulled back, just as natural as can be. The back of the neck slightly elongated so that the head is tilting slightly forwards, downwards. Eyes can be open a little bit. They're closed, just be careful not to drift off and get sleepy. The position of the legs are important, so you must have a posture where you feel stable. So either if you're on the chair, then the palms of both your feet should be on the ground, unless you're sitting cross-legged. So let there be a sense of being still, which I know is not easy. Our body is used to being busy, especially nowadays, the fingers, always pressing something or other. And let there be a sense of non-tension, of being relaxed. Because often we are in a state of tension for no good reason, simply a habit that the body and mind have developed since for a very long time. So we have to unlearn that habit. So initially we do this just through the words, through the instruction, but slowly there can be that sense of being more calm and relaxed. There's no need to be stressed or uptight. It's the ceaseless meandering entanglements that the thinking process gets into that creates so much of the mental circus that keeps us occupied and often stressed out. So we can let go of that. We don't need to engage in that circus, that tamasha right now. And if it's going on, we can observe it. We can just be aware of it with a somewhat humorous attitude. See how, in a way, how ridiculous it is. So together with the stillness and sense of being at ease and relaxed, the third factor, of course, as always, has to be this sense of being awake, aware, attentive. And I'll repeat the story that some of you may know, but quite a few of you may not. Half of you may not know this story, so a little anecdote. So in Japan, it was traditional for anybody who wanted to receive teachings from a Zen master. Zen was the Buddhism that flourished in China and Japan. It's the Sanskrit word, dhyan, which became Chan in China and Zen in Japan. So it was the custom for aspiring students to go to the master's monastery or wherever. But then they had to wait outside. You couldn't just walk in, you know. You had to wait outside, and it didn't matter what the weather was like, you know. You will just sit outside very patiently until they decided to let you in, which could be a long time, quite a long time. More than just a few minutes, it could be hours or days. So anyway, this particular student had passed that test. He had waited patiently outside at the monastery gate. And then he was allowed inside. And not immediately, but after some time, he got his interview or his time appointment with the head monk, the master, the Zen master of that place. So he came in front of him, and the master said, you know, what do you want? Well, then the student said, I want instructions on the teachings, on the dharma. So there was I don't know what they had in Japan, some kind of blackboard maybe, some kind of board. The master wrote on the board one word, which translates as attention. He just wrote that. And the disciple looked at that and felt, he felt a bit cheated, really. He had come a long way. He had waited for so long outside, and it had been quite cold at night and hot during the day. And he felt, had I come all this way just for this guy to write one word on the board? He was a little irritated, I guess, perhaps. So he asked again, respectfully, please tell me, please teach me the Dharma. So the master again got up and wrote one word on the board, same word, attention. And the student, again, he was feeling, well, the master just playing some game with me, or, this, I'm sure he's now going to tell me something very special if I ask him one more time. So he asked him one more time, and the master got up and, you can guess what word he wrote on the board. He again wrote the word, attention. So that was the first lesson for that particular student. Obviously a lesson he needed, that we all need, and which I also still need after having met the teachings 46 years ago, maybe. Still need that message. Attention. 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 So let's pay attention to the breath and the body. And using our imagination and our experience and our memory, we also need to pay attention to the state of our planet, the state of the living beings on this planet, who are in a state of tremendous uncertainty, suffering. Some of them, tremendous suffering, anxiety, physical and mental pain. Some of them are in situations where they really don't know at all whether they will get any food that day, that evening. I was going to say some of them don't know whether they would be alive in the evening or not. But of course, that applies to all of us. We don't know whether we're going to stay alive for the whole of this day. It is not certain. We've all had the experience of hearing about someone who's died, who may be younger than ourselves. I heard about one person like that today. Someone I knew in Bodh Gaya, and they died. They were a little over 50, perhaps, maybe less. There are no more. So the appropriate response to suffering, whether it's our own suffering or others, is to generate a sense of wishing to be free of that. It's only natural. And let's examine our state of mind when we reflect on the fact that so many people around the world, including people we know, are suffering. What's our response? How do we feel about that? We maybe know what we are supposed to feel, or, to be a good Mahayana Buddhist student, we know what we are supposed to feel. But what do we actually feel when we hear about pain and suffering? Start with people you know, perhaps, to make it more real. How do we feel? Can we generate a sense of real concern and care for them, or wish for them to be free of their suffering? Examine this. Examine this for a few minutes. Taking somebody you know. Yeah. So you may have been very moved by remembering the suffering of somebody, or you may not have felt much at all. Whatever. The point is, it's not easy to arouse any kind of genuine love and compassion in the mind. It's not that simple. Many reasons for this, I'm sure. One may be that most of the time we are anyway just preoccupied with our own situation, not so much situation of other people. So for example, today in Bodh Gaya there was a big fire in one section of Bodh Gaya where there are many fruit shops, stalls. About 25 shops or more were destroyed. So, if one were actually to generate a genuine sense of concern and compassion for those shopkeepers, one would have to really put oneself in their place, wouldn't one? What would it be like to lose your shop and all the fruit, vegetables, whatever, different kinds of shops there also. Some of them lost some of their animals. So what would that be like, you see? We can only really grasp that properly if we put ourselves in the place of those people, and that's not easy. It requires some imagination, some real paying attention without distraction. And by the way, I would say the reason, I would say even like this. The reason I'm sitting here is because I became a Buddhist, right? I'm working for this organization, and I'm doing that because I became a Buddhist many years ago. Why did I become a Buddhist many years ago? One of the main reasons, you see, is that I meditated very strongly on these kind of topics at the first proper meditation course I did in this tradition, 5-day course in England. And I really put a lot of effort into the meditation, into really paying attention and using all of my mental energy. I was very, very focused and attentive during that 5-day course, with the result that it made a lot of sense, it seemed natural at the end of that 5 days to engage in a short ceremony and become someone who had taken refuge in the Buddha, his teaching, and in the spiritual community. Yeah, the Three Sharan, the threefold refuge. It came through really paying attention. I remember those 5 days, very intensive. If we don't pay attention, then nothing happens. Not much happens at all, because the energy is not there. It's like having a blunt knife, or having a knife when the surgery demands a very effective laser-like beam. So in a sense, we need that. So we really need proper attention, which is something often lacking. Okay. So again, bring to mind some people, a person, animal, whom you know are in a state of suffering, remember them, bring them to mind, and imagine, if we can, what it would be like to be in their place. Really, what would it be like? And together with this, then, once you've done that for a little while, please engage in the breath awareness practice, where we can simply be aware, breath coming and going, and not get caught up in the thinking process. Come back again and again to the breath. So let's practice these, what I just mentioned, the first, really paying attention to and getting into the situation almost of some being or person who's suffering, and then arousing that wish for the being or persons to be free of their suffering. How wonderful that would be. And then thinking, in order to be of benefit to others, I need to work with my own mind. I need to stabilize my own mind. So therefore, I'm going to engage in the practice of first calming, stabilizing my mind through the breath awareness. And then we practice that for a while. Okay? So we'll spend 8 to 10 minutes in this way. Okay, so we try to focus. Okay. Slowly let yourself come out of that might have been quite peaceful practice. If you need to take a break, take a short break to stand up or stretch, or get something to drink. I hope everybody is okay. Is that Vivekji sitting there? Is that Vivek? Yeah, you're there. Okay. I hope things are going okay with Rowena. Is somebody? Did she take the test? Do you know? Nilashiji, did she take that test? Oh, sorry. There we are, lack of awareness again. क्या बता रहे हैं?
I'm saying that he's ordered medicines. We're waiting for it.
Thank you. Okay, so now we'll look at one of the topics I wanted to discuss today, and then we'll have some discussion. So we're looking at paying attention to listening to ourselves, which we introduced yesterday, and using that as the basis for listening to others. Properly listening, what one teacher has called deep listening. And the deep listening is not only what we described yesterday, where that teacher had said, I quote from him, he said, in the quiet openness of our inner being, it's possible to contact a positive inner voice that speaks to us directly. That's somewhat poetic way perhaps of putting it. But the other aspect of deep listening, whether we are paying attention to our own being or to another, is that the listening is obviously, excuse me, the listening is motivated by a sense of kindness and compassion. We're not listening in order to find some, error or mistake in the other person. It's not like somebody listening to a candidate, at a viva or at some kind of interview for a job, where maybe the interviewer is listening for, weaknesses also, like that, trying to find errors. Here we're listening out of compassion, out of kindness, out of love. See, we all are having a hard time in many ways. Yeah, we're all having challenges in life. We all want to be happy. None of us wants to suffer. So it actually makes a lot of sense that everything we do, including listening to ourselves and other people, is based on this basic wish for others to be free of their suffering and to have happiness. That just makes a lot of sense, that we actually remember to pay attention and listen to people with that in mind, with that as the motivation. Quoting here Thich Nhat Hanh, who has spoken a lot about this, and in his works and in his emphasizing how to communicate compassionately, how to communicate with others. Because remember, well, some of you may not know, Thich Nhat Hanh, this Vietnamese monk who passed away not so long ago, he started his career as a monk in Vietnam, and that was at a time when Vietnam was occupied. Basically, there were American forces there. Previously, there had been the French in that country, and then the Americans, and there was a war going on between South and North Vietnam. And Thich Nhat Hanh was somebody who obviously, he was not on anybody's side. He was trying to just help wherever he could in a very dangerous situation. He was trying to bring peace between the warring factions where he could. So he was not very popular with anybody. He was not popular with the American and the South, the Southern generals and government. And he was not popular with the other side either, with the Northern forces, because he was not on anybody's side. He was on the side of peace and trying to bring harmony and so forth. So he had a lot of experience from an early age of working with people who were in conflict, right? And that became a hallmark of his work, having grown up as a young monk in that very awful situation, in that war that dragged on for many years until 1975, when the Americans left Saigon in the south. So Thich Nhat Hanh, in his works on how to communicate properly in a heartfelt way with each other so as to bring peace, has made this point very powerfully, that deep listening, proper listening, has to be listening with the intention of helping that person to suffer less, because we're all in that state of suffering. And he says, when we're doing that, when we're listening to somebody in that way, that is deep listening, not superficial listening, or critical listening, critical in a not so positive sense. There could also be positive critical listening, where we are very carefully paying attention to something and also analyzing to some extent. But anyway, here he's talking about listening with a mind, a soft mind, a compassionate mind, with the intention that the other person suffer less. In all of our communications. And he says, when we listen in that way, we don't get caught up in judging the other person. It's very easy to judge, For example, it's just one of many examples. Even now, if you are, let's say, a single mother, say you're a single mother, don't have husband or partner, then very easy it used to be easier for people to judge that mother, that single mother, judge her in a negative way for being a single mother. Where's your husband? Why have you had a child out of wedlock, without knowing anything about the situation, without caring about that, and certainly not listening to that person with the aim of reducing their suffering. Simply listening to them, talking to them with a very critical mind, very judging mind, which would have made, which makes the situation even worse for that person already suffering. Now, Thich Nhat Hanh is not foolish. He knows that a judgment may come, a judgment may form in the mind as we are listening to someone. But he says, okay, judgment comes, but don't hold on to it. Don't hold on to it. Be aware that you are judging and let it go. We're not perfect. We're not going to be able to listen to people without judging in a certain way. But we notice it, we let it go. We don't hold on to it. He says deep listening in this way has the power to help us create a moment of joy, a moment of happiness, and to help us handle a painful emotion. Because usually we react. If someone is having a difficult emotion around us, upset, anger, irritation, whatever, very easy for us to get caught up in that, isn't it? If you remember your own experience in this regard. If someone is being quite emotional or upset or angry, it's very hard just to calmly listen to that person with a compassionate state of mind. It's not easy, is it? This is what we're being asked to being challenged to engage in. Nobody has promised that any of this is going to be easy, right? Remember what we quoted, I think, yesterday, that the dharma is not meant for comfort. Thank you. It's not to make us feel just comfortable, comfy. It's not like a bedtime story or lullaby. It's meant to torpedo our complacency. All of this, I guess, is based on what we might sometimes feel, and it's very uncomfortable feeling, and that is that wherever we look, there's nowhere to hide. You know what I mean? Nowhere to hide from suffering. Nowhere to hide from some kind of discomfort or unsatisfactory situation. We may think, oh, thank goodness, now I'm free of my, family members or this or that. But then we'll find that we have this phenomena, called the mind. We have to deal with our own mind as well. And its perceptions, its distorted perceptions. And wherever we, because we might find ourselves thinking, oh, there's probably a little corner of samsara somewhere which is okay. Somewhere which is okay, where I'll be fine. But no such place exists. Until, of course, we have purified our minds and so forth. But otherwise, no such place exists, because even if the place is very beautiful and free and like, not free, but beautiful like, I don't know, the best of the best 5-star resorts one could imagine, everything spick and span and clean and no bacteria, no sickness anywhere, blah, blah, blah. Still, one has to deal with the disturbed mind, the polluted mind, which will bring problems wherever we are. We can be anywhere. So anyway, not getting caught up in judgments. Compassionately working with judgment when it arises, letting it go. Just like when we're doing the breath awareness, thoughts come, this comes, that comes. We notice, but we just let it go. We're not holding on to anything. Remember, second noble truth, cause of suffering. Sometimes it is shortened to just craving, grasping. That's the cause of suffering, holding on. The philosophy has, all these high words for these things, was like reification, making things seem very solid and real when they're not that way. Because if you think something is real and solid, then of course you hold on to it and depend on it, try to depend on it, swear by it. You might be ready to die for it, But anyway, things aren't like that. Things are much more impermanent and uncertain and intangible, immaterial, So no judging. And I guess Thich Nhat Hanh here, speaking from his own experience, he's saying that this is a wonderful practice if we can do it, this practice of deep listening. Remember, to ourselves as well as with others. And he's saying if you could listen for 30 minutes, for example, with compassion, then you can help another person suffer a lot. You can help another person suffer much less. You can help that person a great deal. And if you don't practice mindfulness or compassion, then you won't be able to listen for long. You'll get bored very quickly. So mindfulness of compassion means you're only listening with that one intention, which is to help the other person be free of their suffering, to suffer less. Your intention may be very sincere, but if you haven't first practiced listening to yourself, and if you don't practice mindfulness of compassion, you may rather quickly lose your ability to listen. We may get distracted, we may get fed up, irritated by the other person. There could be so many things. He's saying if we aren't practicing this first with ourselves. The other person may say things that are full of wrong perception, bitterness, accusation, blaming. And if we're not practicing mindfulness, then their words will set off irritation, judgment, and anger in us, and we'll lose our capacity to listen compassionately. When irritation or anger arise, then we lose our capacity to listen. That's why we have to practice, so that during the whole time of listening, compassion can remain in our hearts. So this is really basic advice, which is so important and so difficult, isn't it? As you know, this these kind of slogans that we put up on the walls of our center. We have it in Delhi. I guess it's here somewhere in Root Institute. But a quote from Lama Zopa, and one of the last line is like, when problems come, experience them with compassion. That's it's right there. Okay, good. You see, it's everywhere. We see that. But what does it mean? When problems come, experience them with compassion. So it means any kind of situation that arouses which are difficult situations internally within ourselves or with other people, we don't allow it to overcome us and to get depressed or angry or irritated, upset, but we use it to generate compassion. Of course, this doesn't mean, again, we have to understand, compassion doesn't mean being conventionally nice and smiling all the time. That's not compassion, is it? Especially when people, might need more drastic treatment. We can't be smiling and agreeing with people all the time. That could be weakness. That's a sign of weakness. But we're talking here of proper compassion, wishing the other person to be free of suffering and skillfully engaging in something that is helping them. Say we were listening to somebody or listening to ourselves, to our own little mind, chattering away, and it keeps on criticizing or this or that or the other, internally or externally. This doesn't mean we just have to keep on listening compassionately without intervening. It could be sometimes we have to say, look, stop it. This what you're doing is wrong. It's harmful. Stop talking like that. Especially if someone is, say, just criticizing or being angry and not judging, doesn't mean we don't have to do anything. So that again depends on the circumstance, on the person you're dealing with, their situation, etc. And all of this, I think, takes on so much more relevance nowadays, because I think we're faced, as I've said many times before, with a situation where people just aren't being listened to. Children are not being listened to partly because adults think they know best, I suppose. So we don't listen to children very much, etc., etc. And of course, they suffer, and they're very distracted. May not be technology, but often in especially modern societies, I guess, when a child is being awkward or giving some problem to a parent, then they just, stick a chocolate in its hand or, something to distract the child, but don't get into any kind of deep, meaningful communication with the child. They just give the child something so the child shuts up. And it's usually something, like chocolate or something sweet. So it's not necessarily very good for the child either. So, deep listening, starting with ourselves. Which is why solitude is so highly revered in all these traditions, not just Buddhism, Christianity, Hinduism, Islam, I'm sure to a certain degree, Sufi masters and others. Not just Sufis either, there are plenty of other Islamic scholars and meditators who must have benefited from being in isolation for some time. because that's the only time we can really listen properly to ourselves. So listening, which can bring about a sense of joy and contentment, as we were looking at yesterday, but also listening to ourselves in a way that is full of compassion, and then which allows, especially other people, if we're listening to other people, it makes them feel very comfortable and makes them feel as though they're being cared for. That's the thing. People don't get that sense they're being cared for, listen to it. And then that makes people behave in all sorts of weird ways, doesn't it? They can become angry, bitter at the world for not loving them, not taking care of them. It makes them not trust people, or at least not trust people to really care for them or love them. So then all kinds of aberrations, all kinds of sickness, psychosomatic sickness, I'm sure, can arise from that. All kinds of neurosis and, bodily problems can come from not feeling cared for. There's a lot of research has been done on this, and it's quite clear that's the case. All sorts of problems with weight or lack of weight or skin problems, apart from many other things, can be related to these kind of situations where people have not been listened to in the sense of taken care of properly. Yeah, and it makes one, it means that under the surface we may be a very apparently on the surface a very kind person, but underneath there may be a lot of other things going on. A lot of unresolved rage and anger at others, at the world, etc. So anyway, I don't want to turn this into a psychology, counseling session as such. We could have some discussion now, if you wish, since it's already 10 to 8. Not that I'm in a hurry. I've had my dinner. So you can unmute yourselves if you want. And any questions, especially beginners may have on anything basic Buddhism, which I hope you're getting some idea that, Buddhism is about also very much paying attention to our body, our mind, to what we need, to what others need. This is of critical importance, paying attention, for which we need to slow down, because otherwise our lives are speeded up. And it will be hard for, if any of you are under the age of 50, 40, especially if you're under the age of 45 or something like that, then it'll be very hard for you to appreciate what it was like in those days before a lot of the mass media that we have now, especially the mobile technology and all of that. Life was very different in many ways. Life is very different before email, I can tell you. And what's happened is things have speeded up in an incredible way. And that has some advantages, but I think many disadvantages. It's made us quite impatient. It's made us maybe in some ways more superficial. We don't spend so much time and care on communicating in deeper ways. If you look at just books which are connected with the correspondence, let's say, between people, not just famous people, but just correspondence. If you look at your own, if your parents or grandparents kept some of their letters or correspondence with other people, and if you read some of that, it's amazing how much effort people put into communicating, actually, often in very beautiful handwriting, not always, but often, or typewriting, like my own mother used to. So I have, 7-8 inch thick wad of letters written between my mother and one of her best friends, sharing so much experience, with each other, when they were often very far apart, very far apart. So this we have lost, and we need to regain that. And I don't mean we all become letter writers, but we need to rediscover the art of communication. And more and deeper communication, not just the WhatsApp version, which I myself can easily get addicted to. But and it's very interesting, and in one way, but in another way, it's quite superficial. It's kind of friendly, can be quite friendly, but I don't know, not very deep. It's as deep as one makes it, I guess, but it's not the same as sincerely felt and written letter, for example. Email, of course, could be, but again, it's something to do with the act of writing with your hand, making that effort with the hand and the pen seems to have some deeper effect. Anyway, gone off on a tangent. Maybe one of the new students at Tushita would has something to ask. Feel free to ask or say something.
Kabirji, we have a question here.
You told to listen with compassion. So when you are listening to someone, but you are the one who is being blamed, and you know that that's untrue, and like even if you resist the urge to stop that person or defend yourself, but will that process like help him, because he is reconfirming his belief that whatever he's saying is right, and will that decrease his suffering? Because he's just repeating what he believes, which is not true sometimes.
Yeah, that's a very good question. We have to know how to listen, how much to listen, whether to reply or not. And in a case like that, first of all, of course, it might help the other person to at least feel they are being listened to, because often somebody begins to listen to that blame and they would immediately start shouting back, that that's not true and da 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 da. But just one's peaceful listening to what the other person has to say, I'm wondering if sometimes that might not also begin to diffuse the situation. But of course, if the person just keeps on engaging in blame, which is not true, then one has to, as much as one can, calmly tell them that they're wrong and explain why. And then if they don't want to listen, then one, I think, just has to stop. If one cannot do, help them change their attitude, then one has to let go. Then you have to let go yourself. And this comes to another very important part of the teachings in general, and probably very practical life advice, which is that sometimes we just cannot change situations. We just cannot, to our liking. So we just should let go. We should just let go. And I'm not saying that would be very easy, because you might be in a very close, that person might be your husband or child or someone very close to you. But at least for that time, that moment, you have to let go and say, okay, I've tried my best to, to listen to you and to understand you. But for the reasons I've explained, I think this is wrong. You are not understanding something, or you are, whatever, patiently explaining, and then, then you have to let go of one's urge to make them see things the way we think they should be seeing them, which also may be biased. We also may not be that blameless. We think we're blameless, but sometimes we may not be, in the sense that, again, blame I'm using conventionally. In one way, who is to blame? If we all have disturbing emotions, then of course we're going to be caught up with them. And so we need to blame the disturbing emotions, right? Not the person. But that's another matter. That's another very important thing to consider, actually. That when people are behaving badly, we just have to remember that they are, as the Buddha said, we are sick people. We have sick minds right now. We are not seeing things clearly. Any of us, actually, according to Lord Buddha. So when people are behaving in that way with you, you have to realize that they are just a bit more sick than most people, or a bit more sick than I am. So then we have to do what we can to diffuse the situation. And if they don't listen, then I have to let go. Because otherwise it's like banging your head against a wall. Why would you want to do that? When you see another person is not listening themselves to you, or is just not caring what you say, even though you're trying to be very clear and patient with them, then what can you do? You just have to stop. Although it might be quite frustrating, because a part of us wants to hear the other person say, yes, you're right, okay. We have to let go of that. Especially if it's a younger person or a child or something. We want them to accept that me, your mummy or daddy is right. You are wrong. And they're just not going to do that. So you say, take it. Letting go is, a very, very important practice, I think. Because there's one great Indian teacher, Acharya, he said that there's no way you can cover the whole world with leather, If you want to have a smooth walk everywhere, you can't cover the whole world with leather. But what you can do is wear shoes yourself, and then your work is accomplished. So it's like you can't control everyone else. It's never going to happen. Never, ever are you going to be able to make other people always behave the way you want. But what we can do is protect our own minds. Wear shoes, which means the shoe of patience, the shoe of compassion, the shoe of wisdom, understanding that people are sick. That's what Buddha meant. They're sick because they don't see clearly. They are full of polluting emotions. So you can expect them to behave badly. And then the mind is already protected. Once if you go out in a storm and you're protected already with good clothes for the storm, for the rain, then you're okay, because it's a storm outside, right? It's not like you're going out without any proper clothing. You have proper clothing, equipment, maybe an umbrella, whatever. So when we know that people are basically going to act crazy because they are full of disturbing emotions, just like has been taught to us, and which we can see actually, then okay, it's like a doctor being confronted with a sick patient. He doesn't expect people to come to his door if they are healthy. He is expecting sick people. He survives. He makes his money out of sick people. So in that sense, we can develop our own positive spiritual qualities on the basis, actually, of difficult people. They help us to become more compassionate, more patient. They're like our examine us, that they give us the difficult questions, which make us more intelligent. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's easy. No, I'm not saying I could do it. I'm just saying I know how one might approach it. But it has helped me in life to see how people are not going to behave well because they are under the influence of disturbing emotions. That's very helpful to know. Because if one doesn't keep on remembering that, then one keeps on getting upset that people are not behaving well the way I want. Saying, why aren't they behaving nicely with me? Then everything becomes related to me and what I want, And then I may also not see how I behave. I also behave in a way that is disturbing to other people, but I just don't recognize it. That also happens. And the main thing is also if one practices enough so that one's own mind is full of positive qualities like joy and happiness and through our own cultivation of positive mental states, then it's like other people's nonsense, other people's garbage, if you like, just doesn't have any negative effect on us because we're so full of positivity. It's as though even the deepest darkness in the world cannot affect a strong light. So if we become like a kind of strong light inside, other people's darkness doesn't affect us. In fact, we help to illuminate their darkness, But that requires, I think, a lot of effort to become that sort of positive inside, because we have to work with our own garbage first, Which is why we're talking of deep listening and first with ourselves, helping ourselves first, listening, communicating first with ourselves, then we'll be able to do that with others. So that takes some time, yeah? It looks like. So maybe that's helpful, I'm not sure. But what is helpful for sure is to see how other people are in a state of confusion and suffering. And so therefore, they will act strangely. They will act in ways that are disturbing to us. What else? Feeling very thirsty today. It's quite hot. It was 38 or more degrees here in Bodh Gaya today. 39 according to Rajesh. He's our weatherman. Huh?
37, 36 Delhi Gurgaon.
Yeah, quite warming up, and then there was a fire in town, so that must have heated things up. And now that people, I mean, imagine if your business has gone up in smoke today, how would you feel this evening? How are those families feeling? All of their vegetables and fruit, thousands of rupees worth of damage, to people who are not rich already. Most of them are not well off people. Not so well off. What else, folks? Anilji, anything?
Nothing.
Kabirji,
Yeah.
a follow-up question. Thank you for that question from Tushita. And thank you for the teaching, Kabirji. So I understand this in theory about us working on ourselves and getting to a place of being able to understand the other person with compassion. But in
Right.
practice, I am speaking from my learning, also flawed. So there is a point up to which I am able to take it, and then my ego steps in, okay, wherein I feel like, okay, now you protect yourself. And we've talked about how in the last time also there is this thing about when we've gone through series of emotions in human lives, and we're still ourselves quite polluted with all sorts of emotions. There's no right or wrong answer. There's so much subjectivity. And when these are close relationships, say if it's a child or it's a parent or someone we love, a friend we cannot cut off a relationship with, then it just becomes so hard to let go, because it just feels like a betrayal of this very personal loving relationship. In other ways, it's attachment, but it's still there.
Letting go doesn't mean saying bye-bye to the person. I didn't mean that. But in the moment, it means you let go and you say, take care. And then, you retreat, or you say, okay, see you later, or whatever. I'm going to my room for a while, or take care. We agree to disagree. Jo bhi hai. But I didn't mean by letting go, you divorce the person if you're married to them or anything like that. I meant that for now, take care. Drop that, because otherwise it can lead to very big upheavals. I mean, big arguments and shouting and screaming. So before that happens, one can let go. Sometimes, as some teachings say, that we have this expression in one of the teachings to offer the victory to others. Meaning, in a certain situation, say, take care. Aap hi theek hai. Okay, good, you're right. So now you leave it at that. You don't try to leave the conversation in a state where the other person feels that you are disgusted at their attitude, or are so convinced that oneself is right, that you are right. No, you say to the other person, take it. You may be right. Let's leave it for now. We have to let go. Somebody has to let go, right? If nobody lets go, it's like in wars. Nobody wants to let go because of many issues, pride and money and armament industry making money and a whole bunch of other factors, geopolitical factors. Nobody wants to let go. It's harder at an international level. But even at a personal level, it's hard, isn't it, to let go? Something in us wants to make the person accept that you are wrong. You're the one who's wrong. Even if it's very clear to most people that they are wrong, we don't have to force it down their throats that, yeah, you are wrong. You see, other people also agree with me. I told you. If we do that, we're just creating more problems. That person will want their revenge at some point.
What when that's coming from a place of love and care? Say for a child, they want to watch TV. I mean, they're a child, they are free to play and they don't want to study. But then you have to.
Yeah. That's
then
different.
we see.
Yeah, that can be done in a loving way. But then, of course, you can't force your child to study, can you? Could you force them to study? In the past, they could be beaten, right? They could be smacked, but then would that study be much good, So we could try all those methods, but it's like they say, you can lead a horse to water. You can't force it to drink. So sometimes we just have to let go. And letting go can be very skillful, because then the other person doesn't feel any pressure. Or as one teacher very humorously said once, he had felt this. He was Italian, and he made this joke in a retreat he was leading here in Root Institute. He said, if you want an Italian or an Indian to do something, he said, tell them not to do it. It was his humorous way of saying, look, people don't do what you tell them. People like to do their own thing. We can't force other people. to do what they're doing, what we want them to do. So let go. What's the point? Of course, if you're a mother and your child is 2 years old and sticking his fingers into electricity sockets like children do at that age, apparently, then of course you have to take very stringent measures. Obviously, you don't let go there. You may have a dead child. So it depends on the situation. But you can let go of the anger or irritation in the mind, maybe. When you read up in a book, there may be a book you trust or an author, and they say, well, at this age, children do this, this, and this. And then, oh, you're right. Then you accept. That's what children do. So it's okay. But we have to accept that there's a lot of things we adults also do, which are much more stupid and dangerous than putting our fingers into electricity sockets. So then we have to understand ourselves and adult behavior and know when to let go there. I think we probably become more skillful the more we slow down and pay attention or listen to ourselves, listen to others. But that has to be cultivated, doesn't it, in our busy schedules. Which is why we do need time, some time in solitude, some time with others. Any questions here, Sanjana or Rajeshji?
I don't have any question, but I remember which is line was saying, which was saying like if you are living in relationship or in family, you just make commitment when we wake up. My responsibility to make everyone happy. No matter what is happening with me, my responsibility is to make everyone happy. This I remember for Lama Zopa Rinpoche's.
So Rajesh, you were saying how Lama Zopa Rinpoche said that, especially in a relationship like a marriage, then when you wake up in the morning, we should think that my responsibility, whatever happens, my responsibility is to make other people happy, is to make the family members happy. Yeah.
Taking that commitment in the morning. Taking that commitment in the morning.
Making that commitment in the morning. Yeah. But of course, how we do that requires skillful means. But that's the overall motivation in the morning.
Hello, from Tushita. I had a follow-up question. I'm Nihari.
Hello.
So what if in certain relationships, be it like your mother or other close relationships, it's come to a point where the frustrations have gotten so high that you must let go of the person, or it feels that way? How would one approach that?
Having to let go of a person.
Yes, when it starts feeling that their energy is not bringing much positivity to your life and keeps on.
You mean by letting go, just getting out of the life of that person, splitting with that person or whatever?
Yeah, because we've talked about letting go of emotions, but on a higher scale, if you will. What if like leaving each other's lives?
Sorry, I didn't catch that last bit.
Because we talked about emotions, but what if it, like you've kind of tried to do the emotional part various times, but there's no solution. So it feels like it's time to part ways.
Yes. So what's hard about that? When you've made the decision that it's not working, then you just leave it. If you're then asking, how do I deal with my mind once that's been done, the grief, the hurt, whatever, the missing of the other person, even though there were a hell to be around, but one may still miss the other person just because of out of habit. So if you're asking me how to deal with that, well, there are many methods to deal with that. Some are analytical, some are just more just calming, stabilizing ways of practicing, which help to reduce the kind of manic mental churning that we go through, where we think much too much about things, much more than is healthy. But all of the Buddhist practices we've been doing here at Tushita, they help to cope with situations like that, as do the basic tenets of Buddhism. Are you familiar with the basic tenets of Buddhism?
This is my second
Are
day.
you new to Buddhism?
Yes.
So, well, there are four. There's said to be four seals, or four. Seal, as in some. When you seal something, it is deemed to be authentic. So there are four things which one should remember about that. Buddhism is saying. One is that all compounded phenomena are impermanent. So that means anything that comes together through causes and conditions, which includes a relationship, many causes and conditions, that is impermanent. Meaning, not only does it change, but it will at some point come to an end. So that's true of everything that is compounded, that comes together through causes and conditions. So the second thing is that all phenomena, all tainted phenomena, are in the nature of suffering, or all conditioned phenomena are suffering, which one teacher has translated this way: all emotions are pain. All emotions are painful. Yeah, that's the second truth. That's the second seal. The third seal is that all phenomena are empty, selfless and empty. They do not have any independent self-nature. They are a product of causes and conditions which are changing moment by moment, you see. So there is no inherent graspable nature. There's no inherent graspable me or you or anything else in the universe. So this is a tough one. And the fourth truth is that nirvana is peace. Nirvana is a state of peace. Whatever nirvana is, one has to study what is nirvana. But the Buddhists seem to be implying there is a state of peace beyond all of this tamasha. Yeah, you understand that word tamasha? Yeah. So beyond all this suffering tamasha, or circus, or cyclic process, there can be peace. There is peace. There is a possibility of peace. There is peace. But yeah, we have to create the causes and conditions for that peace to arise. So these are the four seals. When one begins to reflect on these, then it can take some of the bite out of things, because one realizes this is how things are. It's only my own ignorance, my own holding on to things, that makes me want to have, a permanent friend, permanent relationship, permanent good status, permanent, handsome, youthful looks, whatever it is we're attached to. None of this is going to last, It's changing moment by moment. And so that's good to know, isn't it? That things are changing, and that all the emotions, ordinary emotions we feel, are in the nature of being suffering, because they are tainted with what we Buddhists call the primordial ignorance right now, self-grasping ignorance. And so that's another one. We can't expect lasting joy or happiness from our ordinary day-to-day emotions. That's just not going to happen. And especially not from anger, attachment, jealousy, pride, competitiveness, all of these things that we experience. And then then a deeper truth, the third one, which if we begin to understand would be really liberating, which is that actually there is no real, inherent, solid me or anything else in the universe to get attached to. It's only my ignorance that feels that things are that way, but they're not that way. Not only are they impermanent, which is a very good thing to understand, of course, but not only are they impermanent, there is nothing really there from the side of the object, which is in any way inherent or solid. It depends on so many factors. It depends on so many factors, everything. So that's good to know. These things can help. The other thing to know is that, there is going to be some grief, unhappiness about things. So one just has to be courageous and deal with it. It's not like there's some magic formula and the pain goes away. The Dalai Lama was asked once about something. Excuse me. Yeah. Thanks. The Dalai Lama was talking to this person, Howard Cutler, in some very interesting books. The Art of Happiness is one book. Then they wrote another together, The Art of Happiness at Work and The Art of Happiness in a Troubled World. These are three very, very good books because they're in dialogue form. His Holiness with this psychotherapist or whatever, Dr. Howard Cutler. The books will be in the library, I think. Anyway, so in that, His Holiness gave an example of a situation where there was some regret. He had done something which is topical now, yeah? You've been reading about him with this little boy in Dharamsala. Anyway, there was something which there was a cause of regret. And so then Howard Cutler asked him, do you still feel regret about that? He said, yes, I do. And Howard Cutler was very surprised. He felt that the Dalai Lama, someone like that, shouldn't feel any regret so many years later. But because the situation was such that he hadn't been able to help somebody or something like that sufficiently. So he felt regret. So it doesn't mean we can totally get rid of something like grief or regret, and, but we can learn to live with it and understand it and become actually more courageous and compassionate due to that, because then we become deeper people, not just superficial people who think that life's, some kind of party only. We can become deeper, kinder people, realizing, these things. So yeah, that's all I can say for now. So the more I think you study and reflect, it becomes easier to understand what we Buddhists are talking about. Yeah. Thank you. What else, folks? Wow, 8:30. Almost. You're getting your money's worth today. Yeah, there's a donation box, of course. So do feel free to put your life savings in that. I'm kidding. Yeah, so I think we can stop there. Our next session is Thursday, and then on Friday, it's Ambedkar Jayanti, commemorating Baba Saheb Ambedkar's birth. And Neil had asked us to do something which we will do. We'll advertise it more properly tomorrow and the day after. That will be useful, given that so many millions of people in India do profess to be Buddhists as a result of what Baba Saheb did 67 years ago. So yeah, it was very well worth our time looking at that, investigating that and having some discussion. And I may try and get one of my erudite Baba Saheb Ambedkar friends, who's a professor in Hyderabad, someone I'll try and get hold of who can join us for that. Would be useful for their input as well, very much, since they've grown up in that milieu and in that community and so forth. Okay, so anyway, for today we can maybe stop there. I hope it's been in some way a little bit useful for someone, for some of you. If not, then at least it's been a practice of patience from your side, for which I'm very grateful. So let's dedicate that these topics, which right now might be more on the level of words and thoughts, maybe they become more real. May we show the love and compassion we all have in our hearts, may we be able to show it, manifest it for others with our capacity to listen and be kind and compassionate, and have that manifest through listening carefully and basing our actions on first that listening, which is a kind of paying very appropriate kind of attention. So may these teachings, which are very vast spectrum of teachings in Buddhism, which are so beneficial for beginners and advanced students alike. So may these teachings last in this world system for a very long time. May we never be separated from these teachings, and the teachers who can unlock the deepest levels of these teachings, may those great teachers have long and healthy lives, and may we always be connected to them one way or another. We should pray like this, aspire for that to happen. So especially may His Holiness the Dalai Lama and our teachers, Lama Zopa Rinpoche and others, have very long and healthy lives and continue to benefit us with their example of their lives and their teachings. May our lives always be meaningful for others. May we never hesitate to do the work, create, engage in the actions of the bodhisattvas, benefiting others as much as we can. And may we bear hardships with fortitude. Okay, so thank you very much, everyone. I just need to, everyone could leave. I just need to have a private word with Vivekji for a moment, who's helping with various things. But thank you, everyone, very much indeed. Nivitaji, Neil, Bhavya, Apurva, Ibs. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kabirji.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. So Vivekji, you've got the.
Yes, she's tested positive.
She's positive now. So
now just see your phone. Just see your phone. I've sent you 2 messages.
Acha, 2 messages. Oh,
and my response to that.
On my smartphone. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, that's good. All right. Dinner khar liya maine. Yeah. Divs, you can leave now. There's some private center things. Thank you. Yeah, you can stay, Navidaji. Yeah. Okay. So she is at Tushita, and she is, I hope, not feeling too stressed. Yes, right. I can't see your face, Vivekji.
She's more stressed now because she's thinking that she has to leave. She has to go from here.
So tell her that she doesn't. She has to get well, right? I mean, do you agree with that?
Yes, absolutely.
Nivita, I think she should stay there. Actually, she's a very close old friend of mine. I feel responsible also for her.
So from what I've told her, I mean, she's feeling a little better because then she wrote back, "Thank you, that's the spirit."
Yeah, good. Yeah, I mean, she may be feeling very vulnerable right now. Yeah. Okay. So
We'll see. That we have to look
is
at it.
is Kaushalya going to come in tomorrow, or will she? Okay. Also, Nitya wants to speak. Has she spoken to you recently, Nitya?
Nitya is not here.
Nitya,
Okay.
and she is at the Hoskas pharmacy. She's getting tested. And she
Oh,
said
she
that
is also getting tested. Take her. Right.
she will let Kaushalya Didi know to not come.
Okay. Good.
How does this lady manage here?
Yeah. Take her. Okay. So she's. Yeah, the movie is over, and she's. And you're saying she's in the market now.
Yeah,
Okay.
getting tested.
Okay. All right. Good. Well, after that, someone can take her to my place then.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Yeah. Yeah, does that work? And yeah,
It's negative. That is.
No, even if she tells
I'll call my aunt and let her know what's happening. What's that? What's that? Kya hai?
If she tests positive or negative, she should move to your place.
Well, she doesn't feel comfortable staying at the center because there's a lot of shared spaces with Rowena.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
the only thing is that if she tests positive and if she moves to
फिर
your
तो मजा आ
place,
जाएगा फिर तो लाइब्रेरी के अलावा मेरा घर अस्पताल भी बन जाएगा बहुत ही
नहीं,
अच्छा
पर फिर ऊपर वालों को तो बचा के रखना पड़ेगा ना.
ऊपर वालों को तो नीचे आना ही नहीं है
हाँ,
कुछ काम ही नहीं है नीचे आने का and I can tell my auntie that's fine there's no reason for them to come down and there's no reason for Mukesh to come and clean because actually that place doesn't need cleaning every day it's ridiculous he can take a break let's hope she doesn't test positive though
Yeah.
it's complicated
Well, you see, when Rovina arrived on Sunday, she was as it is. She was not well, and we all of us sat with her, and we went away after some time. But Nitya has been very much there, you know.
Yeah. Do you feel any symptoms yourself?
Sorry?
Are you feeling any symptoms right now?
Not at all. Nitya has practically been sharing the bed with her, you know.
I beg your pardon?
Nitya and Rovina have practically been sharing a bed over there.
Is that right?
They're so close to each other where they're sleeping, isn't it?
Well, they're in different rooms. They're in different rooms.
Oh, I'm not aware of that. Okay.
Oh, yeah. No, Nitya has the main room and Rovina's in the dormitory. Yeah. Anyway, Nitya wanted to speak to me, so I'll call her in a minute.
Hi, Nitya.
Tell her to speak to Kabir.
All okay? Did you get tested?
So I'm asking her to call me, and I can speak to her now and just let people know what's going on.
Vijay, you can call her in like 3-4 minutes. She's going to get tested. I just called her.
Okay, take it. Okay. Well, thank you, folks. Thank you for everything. Sorry about this blip. How are you, Nivita ji? How is the Gurgaon saga going on? No, Nivita is in a state of trance state.
I think she's
When are you going to the bookbinders?
Vivek signed this.
We were to go today.
You're supposed to go yesterday originally, and now today, and now कब हो रहा है? ये बहुत गलत।
आज हमने पार्टी करी और कोई काम नहीं किया।
अच्छा, पार्टी करने में लगल हैं।
आज हमने समोसे खाए, समोसे तो मिले नहीं तो हमने ब्रेड पकौड़े खाए।
वो कहाँ है आज? वो नहीं आया?
बॉब है ना यहाँ। बॉब बाहर जाके सबको बता रहा है कि यहाँ किसी को कोविड हो गया।
अच्छा, सबको वो प्रचार कर रहा है। ठीक है।
I requested the guard who was to collect the medicine, the test kit. I told him not to tell anybody because unnecessarily people will panic, you know.
Yeah.
But Bob went out and announced to all the guards to all the
Ah.
servants, to all the staff.
Very good. Very good. I know. Where would we be without Bob, you know?
Yeah, our
Without
very own, our very
practice.
own all Tushita radio.
Yeah, our practice of patience, many things.
Yeah.
Some people used to get very angry with him who worked at Tushita.
I'm suddenly feeling very sad for him. Actually.
Of course, he is very sad. He has nobody.
Yeah,
Nobody.
and what he said yesterday to me,
Ah,
you
kya
know,
bola?
I don't know. We were just joking about some samosas or something. So I said, Bob, you're the one who brings samosas. He said, yeah, I can't bring. I have no money at all.
No money at all.
Imagine
I
me.
thought
Imagine me who also has no money at all is feeling sorry for him.
तो वो जॉब क्या कर रहा है? जॉब तो कर ही रहा है, कह रहा है.
Money, I don't know. फिर तो वो मुझसे ज़्यादा अच्छा है. You should be giving me money.
Yeah. No, he's not in a good situation. That I know.
I think in his head he is not in a good situation at all.
Yeah. Are you there, Nivita ji? Hello.
Kabirji, she's at the hospital with her dadi.
With who?
With
With
her
her
dadi.
dadi.
Yeah.
Oh, so her. Oh, but her WhatsApp is on. Her Zoom is on. Interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Okay. Well, it's delightful to speak to you people on the Zoom. Kaise chal raha hai? Or any changes at home you've engaged in which I should know about?
No.
Yeah, one lot of books has gone in the new rack.
No, but no drastic changes have been undertaken.
No, that
No,
no.
to my knowledge.
No, have you come to know about the divine intervention?
Divine intervention. Which one?
The gate being unlocked in the morning.
Ah, unlocked in the morning. I see.
Unbolted.
Somebody locked it at night, and it got unlocked in the morning.
Locked it at night, but in the morning it was not.
होगा कोई कूद गया होगा पानी पीने या कुछ. Yeah, who was telling you that? Jagdish?
No, Auntie herself. She called me to ask me that. Were you here last evening?
Oh, so maybe somebody, Nilashi ji, did you leave late or something after they closed the gate, maybe, or something?
No. I was not even there. I didn't come that day.
Hoga koi kuch hoga. I don't know. Or else someone was forgetful that they hadn't actually closed the gate. Anyway. Yeah, Auntie's not going to be happy with. Well, it'll be okay if Nitya is not positive, but if she's positive, anyway, my auntie doesn't have to have anything to do with downstairs for a few weeks. I mean, she doesn't come down herself, and just no need for Jagdish to come down. And when I come back to Delhi, I'll have to stay somewhere else.
You can stay with Vivekji.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, there's a nice sofa in his sitting room.
And a study table.
No, you can sleep on my mother's bed. Only your legs will be sticking out from your knee downwards.
Very good. Yeah, that's auspicious.
Okay, now both of you can call each other and talk. I have to leave.
You should go home. Yeah, you have a long way to go, Nilashi ji. Aap jaiye.
Sorry?
You have a long way to go home. You should go.
She's not going home. She's going partying.
No, I'm going to my cousin's house right now.
Where's that?
Amar Colony.
I think no, you can't go. You have to give me that.
Amar Colony, near the Khoka market.
Yes.
जाके वहां भी investigate कीजिए कोई bargains हैं तो ले आना. Any good bookcases?
ठीक है.
Thank you both very much.
Okay.
So now you speak to Nitya and then get back. Then I'll speak to her.
Yeah, then you will need to let her in and give her. I'll speak to my aunt meanwhile.
This is a problem. This is a logistical issue for her also. She still has her clothes and all too. She needs to go up.
Yeah, and yeah, with Rowena, someone will have to bring her food, yeah?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I can, I think she has money, so she can, or I can pay for her food for the time being.
She has
someone-
money. She's been, time and again, she's been asking me again and again, how much did the test cost?
How much does what? The test cost?
Because I told her, I said, first you test it and then we'll talk about the money later. So three messages have come for the money.
She won't be having a lot, but she probably has sufficient. Does she have, is she supposed to have a flight out of the country soon?
Not a flight, she's on a train. She's on a waitlist ticket or something.
Oh, so she's not leaving the country yet.
I don't think so.
I'll speak to her as well.
You see, because if she was leaving the country, then she wouldn't have been so worried about being asked to leave this place. No? Train journey can be avoided or not made.
Yeah. Flight.
If flight agar bahar ki hai, तो that would be a lot of money. No?
So you think she is not leaving the country? Anyway, I'll find out.
Speak to her and then
Yeah, before.
she has to come here. No? No saman dene. Then I'll take her.
Yeah. Who's that at the back? Is that Bob?
Bob is having his dinner.
Hi, Bob. Acha.
Good night. Good night.
Yeah, don't go and tell the newspapers what's happening.
Sorry?
Tell Bob not to go to the newspapers.
Hmm.
This is my cousin. I also texting. Okay, Kabir ji, namaste.
Namaskar. Thank you
Bye.
very much.
Good night.
Good night.